Well guys, this might be the ugliest thing that I have ever built. I find that when I'm in a hurry and I just need to throw together something really quick, it's usually not my best work, and that is definitely the case with this particular wall shelf here. When I threw this up on this wall, I was just trying to quickly find a spot that I could place this Apple TV that I have hooked into my TV that's mounted on the wall, because sometimes I like to, you know, Netflix and build, and I needed a spot for this Apple TV to sit. So I just took some scrap wood and I threw it up on this wall. But this is not the best setup here. There is a little bit of sag here, but fortunately these things are not very heavy, so that really hasn't been an issue. But my main issue with it is that it's just really freaking ugly. I mean, this wall is way too colorful and bold and cool to have something this ugly on it. So I want to change this out. And a couple of years ago, I found a picture online of this like really super cool paint drip style shelf. And I thought to myself, that would be something super fun to make one day. And I just have never got around to making it. But I was thinking about it the other day and I decided that it's finally time to change out this ugly shelf here. And I thought that paint drip shelf would be super cool to have on this wall in its place. I think it's just going to add to the appeal of this wall. It's funky, which I like. It's colorful, and you know, that fits my style in this shop. Now, every time I look at these sort of paint drip shelves, it really is kind of a little bit nostalgic for me. The millennial in me just thinks back to those Nickelodeon days that I grew up watching. Every time I see paint drip, it just kind of reminds me of, you know, that slime, that Nickelodeon era, and that really hits me in the nostalgic feels. So I think that is kind of what originally drew me to this paint drip style shelf. Anyways, I think it's gonna be super cool. I think it's going to be a fun addition to this wall here. So first up, we're just gonna get this ugly thing off of the shelf. It's really just attached with a few screws here, and then we can get started on making a new one. Okay, well, would you look at that? I guess we're starting this video off with a little bit of a shameless plug for my channel, and why not? Something I'm proud of, so if you haven't checked out some of my other videos, then, well, yeah, you probably should. Bye-bye! YouTube actually sent me this little Lego brick here, and this might be the first Lego that I've put together in like 20-something years, and it was a lot of fun. Yeah. Thanks, YouTube. Well, she put up a fight, but I'd say I won. Now I'm going to be building this paint drip shelf entirely from this 1x8 pine board. I'm going to start by cutting this board down on my miter saw into the pieces for my shelf. There will be 5 pieces total, a top, a front and back, and 2 side pieces. Then I had my good old friend Google help me find some images of paint drips. Once I found some images I liked, I printed them out and roughly cut them to size. These are basically going to be used as the template for cutting out the wooden pieces of the shelf. With my templates cut out, it's time to get them attached to each of my wooden pieces. Well, how would one do such a thing? I'm glad you asked so that I can tell you to basically just don't do what I did. I ended up using some Pro Tack spray adhesive here to attach these templates under the notion that I could just sand the templates off once the adhesive was dry. Oh, how wrong I was. Well, I guess technically I was able to sand it off eventually, but it fought me till the very end. I spent way more time sanding these templates off than I intended, so I mean, I guess good job, Pro Tack? You did your job. A little too well, might I say. I think the next time I'll be keeping it elementary when it comes to attaching these paper templates. Okay, so I've got my little template pieces glued onto my pieces of wood, and now I'm gonna go ahead and cut it out according to this design here. Now I could cut this out on the bandsaw, but because I have some of these tight turns here, I decided I'm just gonna use the scroll saw. This is just a very soft pine, so it should have no problem cutting through this. All right, let's get to cutting. Have you guys seen those creators online that are simply incredible at the scroll saw? Yeah? Me too. And unfortunately, I'm considerably more unskilled when it comes to using this thing than those people. So I'll just stick to cutting out arbitrary shapes that don't really need to look like anything in particular. Love that for me. Now that I have all my pieces cut out, I want to clean them up a bit, and so I'll be using my spindle sander for this. Do you guys want to see something cool? See this eraser here? This is what I use to quickly remove built up dust from sandpaper. Just a quick swipe of this thing and we can get back to sanding. Yes. You see me here trying to sand off those glued on paper templates from earlier, and thanks to editing, I get to spare you many minutes of my frustration. If only it was that easy in real life. But I'm happy to report all of the paper is gone. Or is it? Actually, now it's just in dust form all over my shop. Ugh. Now it's time to begin assembling this shelf. I started by adding some wood glue to the pieces, and the plan is to attach them with a couple of brad nails first, just to sort of hold them together until I can add a couple of screws. I added a couple of screws for the top piece that connects into the back section that will be mounted into the wall, but for everything else, I simply use wood glue and brad nails. This shelf won't be supporting a lot of weight, so I think this should be sufficient enough. Hold up, did my dog just throw the ball at me? That was weird. Let's finish getting this shelf together. I did end up placing a couple of clamps on the shelf just to make sure my joints held together nicely, and then I worked on plugging my countersink holes and left it alone for a couple of hours so that I could resume my fetching duties for a bit. Once the glue was dry, I removed the clamps and it was time to attach the final front piece for the shelf. Next, I got all of my holes filled with some wood filler. More sanding. Ooh, now it's time for paint. Now, I typically avoid spray paint because, well, it's messy and it likes to run more than old Forrest Gump. But this project is literally like the perfect thing for spray paint. Cause can you imagine painting all these weird shapes by hand? Yeah, no, me either. Besides, this is a paint drip shelf. So if the paint runs, isn't that kind of fitting? What do we think about that? Okay, so we gotta get it level, but we gotta do some things. Okay, so now it's time to figure out where the studs are on my wall here where I want to mount the shelf. Now, unfortunately, I already know that there's only one stud in this particular section here because I had to figure that out when I mounted the last shelf. So I'm gonna figure out where that one stud is, and then I'll just have to use something like a drywall anchor for any of the other screws that I'm gonna use for the shelf. Now, when it comes to finding studs in a wall, there's a couple different tools that you can use for that. When I first got started, I just picked up this zircon stud finder. I feel like this is the one that most people probably have. Just runs off batteries and you just basically run it along your wall and then it'll beep and show a red line where it finds a stud. The problem is that sometimes I have found this to not be accurate. It'll scan and say that there's a stud there and then I'll drill a hole and guess what? No stud there. I kind of have stopped using this one as much because I found one that I just think is a little bit more accurate and works better. And that is this stud finder here from Craig. Now I think there's probably different versions of this, but this is the one that I bought. You can pick this up for about $30. And I just find that this one is really easy to use and I like some of the features on it. Now the way this one works is it actually has two magnets on the back here. And those magnets, as you run them along the wall, they're going to catch onto any sort of screw or nail that you have in the wall, into the stud itself. So as you can see, it's just grabbed on there and it's sticking to the wall because it is that magnet is sticking to probably more than likely like a drywall screw that has been screwed into a stud. So this just really does a better job of showing you exactly where those studs are because of those magnets. The other thing I really like about this is that it actually has a little level bubble here. So now that I know it's attached to that screw there, I can use that level bubble to get it level, and then it's got a little laser light here that shows you on the wall exactly where that stud will be. You can flip it around, and if you need it up top, you can just use that bubble to get it level, and then you have the same thing up top. That's really convenient because it doesn't have to be in the exact position you need for mounting because this line will show you exactly where you can drill your holes, and I just found that this is a much better stud finder. So if you're in the market for one, I would highly recommend this one here. So I'm just gonna go and find, well, I've sort of already found it, but I'm gonna make some marks where I can place some screws through my shelf into this stud, and I will probably have to add another drywall anchor as well because I don't really trust just one or two screws into the stud to hold this shelf. It might be okay, but I think I'd feel better if I just added a drywall anchor in there as well. All right, well, let's get to it. I want to place it so I'm covering up the holes here. I should look level. Did you accidentally use a permanent marker on your finished piece like a big dummy? No worries, mate. Crocodile cloth will take it right off.
Don't ever do that again.
And it's gone. If you guys haven't seen my video where I talk about these crocodile cloths, I'll leave a link to it so you can go and check it out. These things, they're awesome. Well, this is a bit of a design challenge here. I can't drill directly down into it because of this. So I think my solution is to use one of these right angle things here, and I will get that into my drill. Let's give it a shot. Look, y'all gotta forgive me because this is one of the most awkward spaces to try to film in ever. I'm doing my best here. Looks pretty good. We like that sound. That means we hit a stud. You know, I thought it was gonna need extra anchors, but I've only got one screw in there and it's feeling pretty solid. I don't know. I might still add them, but we'll see. So I've got two screws that are screwed into the stud here, and I have two other holes here that I was planning on putting some drywall anchors into, but I'm feeling a little bit lazy, and now that I've got this up there into studs, I don't want to have to pull it off to put the anchors in. And to be honest, it is really solid just with those 2 screws into the studs. I mean, it's way more solid than the last one was, so we've already made an improvement. And if I was gonna put anything heavy on here, then I would definitely use those drywall anchors. But literally, I'm just gonna put that Apple TV on here and that little Lego brick, and that's probably all that'll ever go up here. So I think this is going to be plenty strong for that. I'll throw some screws in there just to kind of tie it into the wall, but they're really not doing anything structurally. But I got them in my hand, so I might as well put them in the wall. Anyway, so that's the plan. I'm pretty happy with this. I think this thing looks so cool. All right, we're back in business. All right, guys, that's gonna wrap this one up. Thanks for joining me on this funky little build. I had a lot of fun along the way, and I'm really loving the way that this wall shelf turned out. I think it fits really well onto this wall here. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Now, ever since I hung up this wall shelf, every time I walk by and look at it, it makes me a little bit happy inside, which is honestly like the opposite effect that that other wall shelf had. And I don't know why that is, but that's honestly one of the things that I love the most about making things. Not everything that I make has to be super complex. Sometimes I look back and it's these simpler builds that I think to myself, you know what? I am really glad that I took the time to make that. And this wall shelf is definitely going to fall into that category. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, well, you know what to do. I'll be seeing you guys again soon for another video. Bye.